Welcome back to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics. We have on a guest, Joan Lunden, that has been on once before. We had such an amazing conversation, and we're excited to welcome her back to talk more about her book, Why Did I Come in This Room? And also a new FDA cleared Innovo, which is a device to help with your pelvic floor. Welcome to the show, Joan.
It's good to be back with you guys.
Well, we had such a fun conversation with you last time, just talking about life in general. And you actually prompted me to get the mirror because it was one of your gifts from your husband. And then Bridget got it
I
after
have it
me.
too. Yeah, I love
You
it. I
guys
just
doing
did
it?
it this morning.
I
Yeah, I just
love
did
it.
it this
So
morning.
easy.
It's
so,
great.
so easy. It's like having a bunch of trainers right in your house.
Right. And
No, we love it.
all the classes that you want, all the
Yeah.
choices and times. I love it.
And then you can rewatch them, or sometimes it's fun getting and doing them live. My husband gave it to me as a gift.
Oh, when Colleen got it, then I went, all right, I'm getting it. Because
All
it
right.
was like right when the
Well, I got
pandemic and
because
all that started.
when you had mentioned it, I just thought, wow, that's a great idea. I can just have it in the house and I don't have to worry about getting dressed and going to the gym. And so thank you for that recommendation because we both have
Much
been
better.
enjoying it.
Yes.
Glad it helped.
How have you been? What have you been up to?
I've been great. Things are starting to kind of come alive again. It's funny because in 2019, right before the world closed down, I probably did 35 speeches that year. I mean, I had weeks where I was in 3 different cities in 1 week. And then COVID hit, and and I started doing Facebook Lives every day. My husband would say, "Why are you doing those? Like every time I see you, you're either booking an expert." I said, "So I'm not just sitting doing nothing." So I'm communicating with a bunch of people and maybe helping someone.
Yes.
And then of course I had just written the book, and the book, I think my book party was March 10th, 2020. Do you remember the day the world closed down? March
Yes.
11th,
Yes.
2020.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
okay, so there goes the book tour.
Yeah.
But,
Mhm.
so everything's been like on virtual. I've done a lot of virtual speeches and all kinds of things. And then the world started kind of coming back. And now I'm back to being booked, to do things live. So a little bit back on the road. And you know what? It keeps you young. A lot of people said, I can't believe that you're having kids again, like, so late in life. Well, I got to tell you, my life's really active and fun. I'm in a squash match tomorrow because my daughter plays volleyball, squash, and tennis. She's a 3-sport athlete, and I'm going to a squash match tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it
So
just kind of, I mean,
you
I'm
have to
an
work
empty
your
nester
schedule.
now, finally.
You have to work your work schedule in with all of the kids' events.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So, even though you will be flying everywhere all the time, you will actually be an empty nester finally.
I
How do you
know.
feel about that?
I'm planning for it. Well, first of all, I've tried to kind of get used to the idea that maybe I should slow down a little bit. Somehow it just hasn't set in with me yet. I like working. My job is a really great job. I've signed, I think, for 4 speeches in the next 60 days, and I'm really looking forward to them. I'm now working on my next book, which is going to be my autobiography.
Oh, you
Cool.
must come on
Awesome.
for that. We would
Yes.
love to.
Yes.
That's going to be a while. That's a big. I've been working on it for 6 months. I mean, it's a big undertaking.
Mhm.
But that also keeps me busy. I mean, I'm just always working on projects, and they're all interesting, and I learn. Interestingly, what I do, I'll never forget. Long time ago, a nephew of mine, who is a doctor now, but when he was in first grade, they invited me to a day where your dad comes in as a policeman or a fireman, and they wanted me to come in, and I went in and I explained what my job was, that every night I get all this research, just like you guys get homework,
Mhm.
and I
Yes.
read all my research and I get ready, and the next day when I go in, I have to interview a person. So I have to know all the questions and kind of what they're going to answer, just kind of like you guys take a test the next day. To which one little boy, and I said, so it's very much kind of like what you guys do. And then the little boy said, then what did you take the job for? It's like you're still in school. And a little girl from the back of the room stood up and said, because it pays a lot of money, stupid. I was like, whoa.
Graders. Oh, man.
They're
First
what,
grade.
9? Well, they're
First
what, 9?
grade.
Oh no,
But
they're 6. I taught
But it
first
was
grade.
in
Yeah.
LA. It was in a suburb of Los Angeles, so.
They heard
Oh my-
conversations, yeah, from their parents.
That's
But it
aw-
is a wonderful profession. You guys know, every time you go on and you do a podcast, you're talking to people and you're learning. You're asking questions and you're learning. And even when I go out to do a speech, it might be to an organization that has basically nothing to do with me. So I have to study that organization, and I have to, in order to write a speech, like I have a speech on February 17th, and it's in Washington, D.C., and it's to NAS, the National Association of State Attorney Generals. So it's going to be the attorney general from every state in the United States. And like, so, my motto is whenever you're asked to do something, just say yes, and then go figure out how to do it. So now, of course, the question, like, what am I going to say to these guys and women? Like,
Yes.
it's, it's.
Do they give you a topic, or do they give
No,
you
I'm
carte
supposed-
blanche?
they're waiting to hear my topic. I'm working on it. I'm
Oh,
working on it.
wow. That's a
I'm
tough
working
one.
on it.
Yeah. Yeah, because you research, and I'm 55 now, and Colleen and I started this podcast 3.5 years ago, and
Yeah,
like
52.
I never knew I would learn this much about
Yeah.
so much at this age. I had retired, and now I'm like, okay, now I'm doing something else. But it is
But
amazing.
my question is if I retired, what would I do?
Right.
Right.
What would I
Right.
be doing? I'm not a golfer. My husband golfs, but I'm not really particularly interested in golf. And I don't know. I mean, I've thought about it. I always said, well, maybe I'll go back to college and take some college classes. And instead, I ended up going and teaching at college,
Yes.
Yeah.
which for the same reason, brain stimulation.
Right.
Right.
Because
Mhm.
that's what we all want to do right now. We all want to know, how do we keep our brains current and active and our cognitive thinking intact? How do we stay in shape and looking like we want to look, because we know that the way nature made us as women, as soon as we hit 50 and our estrogen goes away and our body says, oh, no more estrogen, oh, then that means you're not going to have kids. Oh, well, then all the fat that's on your hips, so that you'll be steady Eddie, when you're pregnant, we'll just send it to your abdomen. What,
Yeah.
for fun?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. We'll
Like,
just-
So true.
I mean, to me, it's evidence that God is a guy and not a girl, because a woman never would have done that to us.
to a
ever.
female. That's right.
And so, like, we want to know, how do we deal with these things? How do you deal with the hot flashes? How do you deal with the leaky bladders and with, uncomfortable intercourse
Mhm.
and all those things that happen to you? Because we had estrogen and now we don't.
Right.
I mean, that's basically the bottom line of the whole thing.
Right.
So, that's why when I wrote the last book, I just had to address these topics. Admittedly, when I wrote the book, I did, what do you call it? I got a bunch of women together. I did research
Oh,
groups.
mhm.
Like a focus
Focus
group.
Yeah.
I
Focus
did
group.
focus groups. Thank you, brain. And I got women from young to, in their 80s. And I wanted to know what women were dealing with, what was bothering them the most, and what they wanted to know more about. And that's kind of how I put the book together. But it wasn't until after it was out and I started hearing from thousands of women on social media which problems were really the most prevalent. Like you guys know, I wrote a chapter, I don't remember which chapter it was, but I wrote a chapter called I Laughed So Hard, Tears Rolled Down My Leg.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It's all about leaky bladders. I didn't understand how big of an issue, how prevalent an issue that was until after the book was out. And I started hearing from everybody. And everybody said, but but we don't talk about it.
Right.
And how about to your doctor? And consequently, everybody just is embarrassed by it, and therefore you don't talk about it. They'll talk about hot flashes more than they'll talk about leaky bladders.
Yes.
That's
yeah.
true.
And they'll just think, I think the worst thing, and probably the biggest reason why I'm out doing these things all the time, is that I think there's a tendency when these things happen to us that we experience them as if it's only happening to us.
Mhm. Yeah.
And like, I'm breaking down, I'm getting old, something's wrong with me. They don't realize that it happens to, they say it happens to 1 in 3. I think that's a super low statistic. And I think it's only that low because women won't talk about it.
Right. The people who report it. Yeah. And they do, they feel so alone.
Yeah.
And finally people are coming out and saying, this is really common.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see it even on TV commercials and things that people are, I mean, look, if they can talk about Viagra and crooked penises, can we please talk about leaky bladders?
Right.
You
Right.
know,
It's beyond time. It's beyond time.
Way beyond time.
Right. And just, the research up until the 90s was done on men. I mean,
For everything.
for
Mhm.
everything. And so women's issues were just not even out there until recently.
Including our brains. Interesting thing I learned when I worked with the Brain Institute up in Canada, which started the Women's Brain Initiative. And she said there's a test that is commonly given when you go in to test your cognitive thinking. And I know because I've gone and had the test done, because I've done stories at these different brain institutes. And they'll give you this thing at the beginning of the, I don't know how long it is, 45-minute test. And they give you 10 words. And you're supposed to take in those 10 words. Then they give you like 30 other things, move this around here, pick this out of there, like all kinds of things. At the end of the test, they say, do you remember the 10 words? It just so happens, and based on that is a big part of the score. And that score is going to say, you have some issues with cognitive thinking, and therefore we think you need to do this. We think you need to take this medication. But the problem is women are unbelievably good at that task. Why? Because we all live by our list, our to-do list. Get the groceries, pick the kids up from school, do this, make sure you get the kids this in. We're really good at remembering 10 things. Consequently, men fail that test, they're diagnosed early and they get help. Women ace that test, therefore they're diagnosed late and they don't get the help until way later than they should have. I mean, that's just one tiny little example.
Right.
No, but that's really interesting because
interesting.
Yeah.
and now that there's a new medication that is approved for Alzheimer's, have you had any research on that?
Well, I just got through doing a webinar for Prevention Magazine called You and Your Brain. You can actually, everybody listening, you can go to Prevention Magazine and go to You and Your Brain webinar. And we did it I did like 3 different sessions for them, and we interviewed all kinds of experts. And I highly recommend that if you're interested in retaining your cognitive thinking, that you go and you watch it. They're not long. Each one's like 45 minutes or an hour or something. And they talk about that medication. And the medication is incredibly promising. I don't think it's going to necessarily be available for us. Like once they find these things, it's got to go through all kinds of processes and testing and clinical trials before it actually becomes something that's just being, prescribed by doctors everywhere. But it's incredibly promising. I don't want to try to explain it any farther than that, but the doctor who explained it on the webinar was amazing.
We have
We'll
to.
make sure
I'll
to
have to
put
watch
that link. Well, we'll
Yes,
make sure to put the
prevention.
link in the
I
show
can get the
notes.
link. I'm sure I'll get the link.
Okay. Okay,
Oh,
that's
thank you.
great.
That
Yes.
well, let's go back to leaky bladder, shall we?
Oh, let's.
So I went back and I have your book. I love your book. Bridget actually gave your
Thank
book
you.
I have
out.
it.
Bridget
I
gave
gave
it
it
out
to
as
every one
Christmas
of my
presents
sisters.
that year.
Good.
And I have 9 sisters. So
Whoa,
and,
really? Do you have
and
any
my mother.
brothers?
I
Or
have 2
also-
brothers. 2 brothers.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, so my little breed of 7 is nothing.
Is not we had 5 more. So.
Okay.
But I went back and I read the chapter that you were talking about. Sometimes I laugh so hard, tears run down my legs. And in that chapter, you talk about urinary incontinence, but you talk
Yeah.
about the urge incontinence versus stress incontinence. Can
Yeah.
we talk? So I don't think women realize that there's different types.
SUI is stress urinary incontinence. And what that means is that as you age and your pelvic floor muscle, like every other muscle in our body that starts to get weaker, that muscle that runs all the way across from the front of your pubic bone all the way back to the rectum, that muscle, it starts to get weak. And by the way, if you've had babies and you've had a 6, 7, 8, 9 pound baby sit on that muscle, that also makes it weak. So the more babies you've had, and by the way, this is an issue that doesn't just happen with age and time and muscles getting old and not being as strong. It happens like after a baby. A lot of women right after they have a baby have SUI. And what SUI is it means that muscle isn't going to hold firm. So any pressure on it, coughing, laughing, sneezing, anything,
Jumping, yeah.
a push-up, a sit-up, anything that gives the slightest bit of pressure against that muscle lets you leak a little. Now, it's not the same as the other one. The other one is like involuntary peeing.
Yeah.
Involuntary peeing,
Yes.
and that's different. It's treated differently. But SUI is the thing that happens to all of us. It happens to most women to some varying degree. And what we tend to do is we wear pads, and now these days they have special underpants. So what are they called? Nicks. I saw a commercial. They have
Hello,
Boys-
Hazel.
Boys makes billions of dollars off of our leaking.
Yeah.
But one day, this is after I wrote the book, so this is not in the book. One day, my daughter, Jamie, who is an influencer on Instagram, you guys might follow her, NYC Fit Fam, and she is just a health nut, and I say that in the best of terms. She does all the time satellite media tours and all kinds of things for only healthy products. And one day she came to my house to shoot a whole bunch of stuff with a videographer and a photographer, because she said, I live in an apartment in the city. This was at the time. And you live in a house in Connecticut. Can I use your house? I said, sure. And she got this thing out and I said, what is that? They were like black biker shorts. I should have had them out here to show you. But they basically look like black biker shorts, spandex biker shorts. But they have an FDA approved woven technology. This technology that's woven through the fabric in the areas that count. And when you hook it onto this little thing and you turn it on, if either of you have ever had like a TENS machine,
Yes.
maybe you've had a hurt muscle and you go to the
Mhm.
chiropractor and they put a thing, go like a thing. It's kind of along that idea, but you wear these pants for 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, and it can cure leaky bladders in 10 to 12 weeks. Why? Are you ready for this? Because in a 30-minute session, it can give you 180 perfect Kegels.
Wow.
Now,
That's a lot of Kegels.
And when you say perfect, because people don't do Kegels, maybe they don't do them the right way.
A lot of us
Well,
don't.
most women don't do them the right way,
Right.
but we've all, if any of us have dealt with this, we've gone to the doctor and the doctor has said, do Kegels. I remember my primary care physician one day, she said, every time you come to a red light, do 10 Kegels. And then you can look at the guy in the car next to you and think, he has no idea that what I'm doing down there. But a Kegel is a weird exercise. It's a muscle you can't see. It's kind of up there. How do you really know you're doing it? It's not that comfortable to do. I know I was told to do them. I've tried them here and there. There are pelvic floor trainers that you can actually go to, like my daughter who had SUI after having her second child. And she tells a story that she was a marathon runner, still is. And she was running in the New York Marathon and looked at her husband and said, honey, just so you know, I am peeing my pants and there's nothing I can do about it, because it was, you know, a number of just not that long after having her second child. And, you know, women experience this. They're running, they're doing whatever. And like, or it's my gynecologist always called it the key in the lock syndrome. He said, you can be driving your car and you're now going to drive into your driveway. You could have driven another 100 miles and you wouldn't have had to pee. But you drive into your driveway, you drive up, put your car in the garage, and you go to the front door. The minute you put your key into the lock, your bladder says, oh, we're home? Okay. And then it's the race. And who's going to win that race? You or your bladder? And I recently learned from a doctor that part of this has to do with your bladder actually coming down in your body. A lot of women, after having kids, have a dropped bladder, and it literally can come right down, and I don't mean to be gross, but out of your body. And you need to go in and have surgery and have it raised back up. But just when, you know, just a little bit, that can kind of press against that. And just from the bladder being in a different position in your body, we are so interconnected that the brain can misfire. And the brain can say, oh, she has to pee. Okay, on it. And it will misfire and tell you yourself to pee, but you're actually not quite there yet. And women experience this all the time. And it's so funny that women will talk to me about this on Facebook, on DM, but they won't talk to their husband about it. They won't talk to their doctor about it. And I'm like, you don't actually have to live with that. You know, I mean, there are things that you can do. But these smart pants, and it's called Innovo, Innovo, Innovo. And you get them online, which is another thing that's good, because I don't know if women are going to go to their doctor and say, can I have a prescription for those smart pants so I don't pee myself? You know, they're
probably not going to buy them in a store.
and they're not, they don't want to walk into a store. Like, do you
Right.
want to walk into a store and go and buy poise
Right.
pants? I mean,
Yeah.
go on an off hour in the middle of the night or whatever. But this, you can go online, you go to myinnovo.com, is myinnovo.com, and they measure it by hip size. So give an honest answer. It's a good thing they don't ask your weight, because everybody would give 10 to 15 pounds at least less. I remember we used to fly private a lot, you know, going to stories. And I remember a helicopter pilot once, he asked all of us our weight, and he said, all right, now I've got to add, how many females are here? There are 4 of you, okay? I'm going to add about 120 pounds, because I know that each of you lied at least by 30 pounds. I was like, wait, what?
Pauline, you told the pilot, I'm lying to you. She had to, he said he was going to weigh. She said, I'm lying.
Yeah. And so they do it by the circumference of your hip measurement. And they show you exactly how to measure it so that you get the right size pants. And I mean, you put these things on and you turn them inside out and you spray them with whatever this moisture is. Then you turn them right side out, put them on, and you just connect these two little connectors, and you take the little, looks like a little iPhone, and you turn it on, and then you'll start feeling some like lifting. It's like a lifting, because people have said to me, is it sexual? Is it like having intercourse? Like, have you ever tried to do a Kegel? Did it remind you of climaxing? Good.
Because if it
Okay.
did, we do them all the
Okay.
time. Yeah.
Okay, so now we're on the same page.
Right.
No, nothing sexual, but it is that like lifting feeling of down there. And so it's basically creating Kegels, and you need to build that muscle back. Just like when we haven't done anything, you go into a gym, like I can go back in and like really like build some muscles, but it's because I'm doing something in the gym that creates it. And that's basically what these do. And I was fascinated when I saw my daughter. She was doing a little campaign for them. And as she was doing the campaign, they said, like a year later, they said, your mom just wrote a book. And she did an entire chapter on leaky bladders. Can we get her to come on this campaign? So Jamie and I we do this. It's really cool, you guys, because it's my daughter. It's a mother-daughter act. And it's a mother-daughter contract that we do together. We're the ambassadors, and we go on different shows. We go in front of big audiences. They had us appear down in Miami at the Women in Retail convention. So 500 women in a room in this big hotel in Miami, and they were all like the buyers of, Bloomingdale's and Kohl's, and they were from all the big companies, from Spanx to like every kind of company you can imagine in retail, of women's retail. And my daughter Jamie and I are there talking to them about leaky bladders, about women's issues, women's health. And I mean, like, it's like an incredible focus group. I said, I want to know how many in this room. I'm not going to ask how many of you have a leaky bladder. That's not something I'm going to get the true response. I'm going to ask you this question. How many of you know where the ladies' room is at every grocery store, department store, and restaurant that you frequent often? And they all raise their hand.
Mhm.
Like, oh, okay. And do you find that your bladder has like a brain of its own? And when you walk into a store, you didn't need to go to the bathroom, but somehow your bladder says, oh, we're in a store? Okay, where's the bathroom? And you're much better off to say, fine, you win, let's go, and then I'll go shop. Otherwise, you're in aisle 3, and all of a sudden it's like, damn, where's that bathroom again? I mean, it's just our bodies. It's how we work, and it can be embarrassing.
Mhm. Yeah.
You
And then
know?
you have a whole cart of stuff. And you're like, do I leave the
Yeah, because
cart?
then you got to go put your
Yeah.
cart somewhere while you go in the bathroom. You're right,
Right.
Bridget.
Exactly. And it's a conversation, it's a taboo conversation that needs it's well beyond time to
Oh,
start talking about it, because it
so
affects so many
beyond.
women. And like you said, it's not just about getting older. If you have had children,
Yep.
if you have a job where you're carrying or lifting heavy items all the time, your
Yes.
bladder gets affected. It's not really, yes, it's age related for us, but not for everyone.
And by the way, if you have a lot of allergies or asthma or anything that makes you cough often, coughing is one of the things that really, really, works on that pelvic floor and weakens it. I mean, if somebody has had the flu or a bad cold, and they've found that for like a woman, that's like one of us, and you've been coughing for 2-3 weeks, all of a sudden you'll find that the problem gets exponentially worse. And then after the coughing goes away, it goes kind of back to normal, but it's still there.
Yeah.
And, we're never going to solve problems if we can't make it okay to talk about them. And that's the biggest problem with women, because, women we want to give the appearance that we're still young and relevant and doing it. We're still our body's still in pretty good shape, when there could really, when we all know there's a whole bunch of stuff going on,
Mhm.
and that
Yeah.
we think it makes us seem older.
Right.
If we put
And
it
so
out
we
there. Yeah.
so we don't want to talk about it.
It's so funny. I was telling my husband the other night, yeah, we're going to talk about this Innovo. And he said, what kind of leaking are you talking about? He's one of three boys. He didn't grow up with sisters. I mean, and I said, honey, I said, don't you know that this happens to women? And he was not aware of this.
And
And
I gotta tell you, he's not unusual. Don't think he's
no,
like most men don't. And I mean, I'm here in my office at my house. And back when I was writing the book, my husband walked through the office one day and he says, "What are you writing about today, honey?" And I said, "Leaky bladders." He's like, "You're going to talk about that in the book?" I said, "Oh, sweetheart, the name of the chapter is I Laughed So Hard, Tears Rolled Down My Leg." And he was like aghast. And he just couldn't believe I was really going to talk about this. And he said, "Are you sure?" Like he thought this was going to be the end of my career. And I said, "You know what? I'm all about women's health. I work on all these campaigns. Someone's got to talk about it." And I'm a person that, women, I mean, like it's my 80,000 BFFs on Facebook. I don't know them personally, but I converse with them all the time. And they ask me questions and I try to get answers for them. And we share. I mean, I can have somebody come on my Facebook page and say, I just had a mastectomy and, I'm going to go on vacation and like, where do I find a bathing suit? And I'll have 10 women answer before I even get a chance to answer that woman. I think that's amazing.
Mhm.
That's a female community being supportive of each other. And so I said, I've kind of opened that kind of dialogue. And this is just a continuation of that kind of honesty. But I wanted to say almost like unusual
Mhm.
honesty that a lot of times, I mean, like a company like Innovo, they'd be hard pressed to get some big female celebrity to talk about something like leaky bladder. I
Right.
said, I'll talk about it.
Yeah, I can't remember which actress. Was it Halle Berry? I don't remember which actress did the thing with one of the poise or one of the underwear things.
Oh
And
no, I think it was Lisa
it
Rinna.
was Lisa Rinna. That was it.
Yeah,
That was it.
Lisa Rinna.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the
And
narrative is changing, but it's slow.
Yeah.
And you'll sit in a room, although we've noticed that while menopause is exploding and the conversation is, women are still hesitant to talk to each other about it because
I think so.
the connotation still is there that, oh, you're old enough to be going through oh, you're not fertile anymore. And we're saying to people, who wants your period? Like, have you used it recently? Like, is there a reason why you still want it? There are benefits to these things, but women won't open up. And even though, like I said, the menopause landscape has changed a lot in the 3 years that we've been doing this podcast, I still think there's that taboo around leaky bladders,
Oh,
menopause.
All right. Want me to take it one step farther?
Sure.
I was just with my gynecologist, who I love. She's just so smart about women's health. And she said, I remember when you started talking about dense breasts when you got diagnosed. And she said, and now everybody's talking about it. She said, and now you're talking about leaky bladders, which is so necessary. She said, when are we going to get to the point to talk about the fact that at the same time that you're having leaky bladder issues, you're also the inside of your vagina, just like the skin on your face loses its density and the collagen all goes away underneath and it starts to get kind of dry, the same exact thing happens to the skin of your vagina. And she said, and it's just a natural thing that happens. And she said, I have women tell me that it's like sandpaper, to have intercourse. And she said, and there's the added issue of gravity and, your bladder dropping down and things coming down. She said it like shortens it. It doesn't have the elasticity anymore.
Mhm.
It doesn't have the fluidity, and it doesn't
Moisture,
have
yeah.
Yeah.
any of the things that make having sex comfortable and enjoyable, and it becomes uncomfortable. And she said, and women are scared to talk about it. Once again, they think it's just them, something wrong with them. They don't realize that it's a natural occurrence. And she said, and they don't, if they would just talk about it, we gynecologists could tell them about, there are all kinds of things, inserts to go in that release, I don't know what it's releasing, estrogen, progesterone, whatever it
There's
releases.
estrogen creams that you
Yes,
can
there are.
use.
There's
Mhm.
creams, there's things, there's now some kind of a ring that they can put in that
Yes, yeah.
slowly releases it. She told me about all these things. I said, I should be writing another book. I'm like, I've learned so much since I wrote that book. I need an addendum. And she's, there were all these different, and then there's the Mona Lisa wand.
Yes.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
She said, that's like going a little farther, but apparently it's similar to something that they do on the face that I've heard of, but I haven't heard enough to know how to explain it. But it's something, it's not like a peel and it's not laser. It's something that they do that kind of like has these little things that prickle into your skin, and it creates plumpness and collagen. There's
Mhm.
a word for it. I
Okay.
don't know what the word
Okay.
for it is, but
We ha-
basically the Mona Lisa wand is basically the same premise, except in your side of your vagina. So it like
Mhm.
makes like those little perforations, which then
Brings
create.
some blood supply to it, or
So, okay. Do you guys talk about like everything on the show?
we do everything.
Everything.
So
'Cause
then she
yeah,
told me,
yeah.
Everything.
okay,
The clitoral stimulation
okay.
that's now out there, all of it.
So
Mhm.
then she talked to me, then she told me, will I be able to remember it enough to be able to describe it? So then she said, there are some great new vibrators out. And for women who have had trouble with intercourse because it's not comfortable, we give them the little insert or something to release those hormones. And then I tell them to use this vibrator with some kind of a lubricant. And the reason why is that it creates stimulation of the blood vessels. I'm
Mhm.
getting medical here, but I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we
Yeah.
went there and I came
Uh-huh.
home and said, I learned so much today about
Yeah.
women's vaginas. And you do this because it creates, stimulates the blood vessels in the vagina, which makes the wall of the vagina kind of, not come alive, but become more healthy, I
Mhm.
guess is a
Right.
layman's
Yeah.
way of saying it. And I was like, I haven't heard of any of this. And I wrote a book
Yeah.
about
There's been a
women.
lot of stuff that's come
There's
out.
been, but we wouldn't have known about it, Colleen, if we had not sought it out. If we hadn't sought these
No.
people out, we had a Dr. Carol Cool who's going to be on our show. We recorded with her, and she said, "What if she could have a billboard that said sex should not be painful?" She's with the Mayo
Yeah,
Clinic, and she just said, "We want to scream that out from the rooftops." But all of this too, this help with vaginal health can also help UTIs. That vaginal moisturizers
yeah,
can also help with UTIs, which a lot of women suffer from
yeah.
as well.
Not
And
just age related. A
yes,
lot of
yeah.
I'm going to
women.
share with you guys in an email the name of my gynecologist and her partner, who is a urologist, gynecological surgeon. Um, these women were like mind blowing how much I learned. I couldn't stop talking. I called every girlfriend I knew and said, "You got to hear everything I learned today."
Yeah.
And so, but to have as guests on some, I would
Oh, that
hope
would be
that
Oh,
great.
that'd be great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
you guys would want to talk to them.
We
Yeah.
had a guest on, the episode was called Better Orgasms with Dr. Arena, and she talked about the O shot now that they can do.
What's
And
the no shot?
the O shot is it's getting your platelets, like they take your platelets out and they inject them back into specific
Right.
areas,
Put them
and
in
it
a
like
centrifuge, and it's a shot. Kind of, is it in the vagina? I couldn't quite
I think it's
remember,
around. I
Colleen.
think they numb
Around
you
the
and then they
yes.
put it in. And
Mhm.
Wow, I'm gonna have to ask. Let me write that down.
The O shot.
The O shot and Cleovana, which is actually
Yes.
sound waves that are supposed to help with sensitivity of your clitoris and actually help with your orgasms as
And
well.
the
There's-
Cleovana, you go into her office. It's like a,
but it's
apparatus.
not invasive. It's just
right,
sound waves.
right. Yeah. Mhm.
We learned so much
We
every
have learned
You guys
Quite
episode.
must
a
have the
bit.
best conversations
Oh,
ever.
we do. Yeah, and my son edits our videos, and I crack. I'm like,
wait, how old is he?
he's actually going to be 30 in a few days, but I'm like, buddy, you're going to know everything, and he's good with
No
it.
kidding. Is he married?
No,
But he
what's
will
his
make a
name?
very
What's
good
his name?
husband.
Jack Garrett.
Jack?
His name is Jack. Yeah.
Oh, Jack, you are going to be a great husband.
He's going to know all about it. Yeah.
But there's
it's
so
funny.
much
Yeah.
coming out all the
Yeah.
time. And we find, like you, we're research people. We love
I'm
finding
like a
out.
research junkie. I can't help
Right.
it.
know.
Every
Yeah.
time I go in anywhere, I can't help but ask 1,000 questions.
Yeah.
But it's learning. We're lifelong learners.
It's just
And
interesting. And I'm so interested in the woman's body and
Mhm.
how we can just stay vibrant.
Right.
It's staying
Absolutely.
vibrant helps us to stay relevant. When I say relevant, I mean relevant in our own minds.
right.
Mhm.
That's part of
Absolutely.
it. Part of it is physical. Part of it is how we think of ourselves and how we relate to our spouses and to the world.
Right. And just a healthy longevity. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, I want to live a healthy, long
That's
life.
what I want, a
Yes.
healthy longevity. I really try to make a concerted effort to not to like cut red meat out of my life, but to eat discernibly less.
Mhm.
Right.
But I want to eat more plant-based as I move forward. But I haven't quite figured out how to
Get
do
it?
it
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
life to a degree where I can really honestly say that I'm mostly plant-based.
Yeah.
Right.
But I
That
will
is hard.
get there.
I
I'm
do
not
too.
sure if my husband's going to go along kicking and screaming.
Well, I have my daughter is vegetarian. I mean, she hasn't eaten meat since she was
And so is
5.
mine.
Yeah, I mean,
My
yeah.
daughter that's the health
Oh,
influencer.
okay.
Where
Yeah.
does she get her protein from mainly?
Beans. And
All roads lead to beans.
yeah, it's beans and tofu and all those things that they cook with. So, and I mean, their whole household is like that.
Wow.
And by the way, I don't think she has an ounce of body fat.
Oh man, I'm surprised she could have a baby. Yeah, without any
Right.
body fat. Yeah.
She did this kind of all after she had,
Had
Her
children.
kids.
mostly after she had
Mhm.
her 2 boys.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
yeah.
coming, but it's only like really become her way of life and her now mission to help others.
Right. Right.
I would be interested to see how she does with her perimenopause symptoms that can
It might
start in the early
be.
40s.
Yeah.
Because
It might be
sometimes
pretty
they're-
mild.
She's 42. She'll be 43
So
this year.
she could be
Oh.
entering perimenopause at any time. And I would be, I would be very curious how the symptoms are for her.
It
You mean
seems to
because
be
they might
better.
not be the same, they might be less.
They may
I
be
feel
less.
like they might be
yes.
less. It seems like women that are
Mm.
plant-based and vegetarian, it seems to be less.
Isn't that interesting? I'm going to share that with her. She
Mhm.
does something called the Big Ask. And it's and anybody who signs on to the Big Ask, and she does it off Instagram and off the website. Women sign on with her. I'm hearing from people all the time on my Facebook page. Oh, I heard you talk about your daughter. I signed up for the Big Ask and I've dropped 38 pounds. And basically what it is she's a, what do they call it? An accountability.
Like
Coach?
a coach or something. I think.
Yes, an
Uh-huh.
accountability
Coach.
coach. And so I said, so in other words, people call you and you talk them out of eating? She said, come on, Mom. I said, no, but people do have like these times in their day where they just need a little encouragement, and they would get through if they had someone to be accountable to. And it's really hard to just be accountable to yourself, because we'll say,
Yes.
who's
Right.
here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm cheating on me. I forgot.
Or if it's a stressful day and you're like, that cookie
Yeah,
would
yeah,
really
yeah.
be good
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
We'll make sure to put her link also in the show
Yes,
notes.
yes,
So
yes,
that would be.
absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming on
Oh,
today and
my
talking.
This
pleasure.
is so
Always
yeah.
fun talking to you too.
Oh,
I
it's
love
fun
that.
too. It's just
Oh, please
open
come
and
back
yeah.
anytime. We would love
All
it.
right, my pleasure.
And good luck with school this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enjoy
Oh,
all the-
everything.
Thanks.
All the
Enjoy the
drop-offs,
proms and the
everything.
graduations.
The
And
busy,
then we'll
busy
talk, then I'll
one.
come back and we'll talk about what the hell I'm doing in the empty nest.
I
Oh,
know.
love it. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. It got me. It really shook me, but I'm okay now. But it really shook me
You
when
feel
it
like
happened.
you're okay now. But
Yeah,
look
I'm
what
okay.
you got. You're getting
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
She got a little, but she got them back for the pandemic, and she was like, "That's enough. You can go
Yeah,
now."
I got them
Yeah.
back and I was good. Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys have found by helping others, you end up helping yourself.
Oh gosh,
Yes.
Always.
it's
Yes.
just hearing
Always.
when people say, "Thank you so much. I never would have known this unless I
Yeah.
listened to." I love that. That to me is worth it all. So, and for Bridget too. So,
Yeah, it is.
All right. So much fun, you guys.
Thank you.
we will talk
Thanks
to you
so
soon,
much.
hopefully.
All right. Mwah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.